Hey guys, welcome back to the enemy development session. So this will be the final video in the enemy AI video series. So pretty much in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to deal damage to the enemy. So far, we can basically take damage ourselves and that'll be reflected in our health. But in this video, we're going to deal some damage to the enemy, and we're going to make the enemy take some hits as well visually with animations. And then also we're going to kill the enemy when they are, fully drained from their health. So let's get into it, guys. So the first thing we got to do is we are going to have to define a hit animation for the enemy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our animator, the enemy, and then similarly, we're going to go into the folder like we did earlier. We're going to find that hit animation that we did earlier, the reaction. There we go. So the reaction is over here. So obviously the reaction can be um, reached if they're in the running state as well as if they're in the shooting state. And obviously it goes back to this, it goes back to that as well. All right, so what we're gonna do is actually I feel like we don't want to go back to shooting after you take a hit. It can go back to running state as well. So if you have an idle state, it can definitely go back to that as well. But we're gonna keep it simple. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new trigger, or we can say is hit. All right, so you go into is hit when you actually get that trigger. So I'm going to turn this off. Same stuff, guys. I'm not going to describe them again. I think you guys are pretty familiar at this point. And then after you're done getting the hit, you go back to this state. And then if you're shooting again, it'll go back to shooting. All right. So it's pretty straightforward there. And then hit, I just want to make sure that hit reaction is actually not looping, because we don't want to loop it. Okay, great. Cool. So the next thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to define a bullet for the player. So we've already done that. If you actually go to the player, I'm just going to hide these. We should already have a bullet prefab that we're going to spawn when we're shooting, right? So we already have that. And in this bullet, guys, what we're going to do is go into the prefab here. So if you double click this 45 ACP bullet that came from the gun package that we downloaded, it actually has multiple children inside of that children game object. So if you're using a different asset pack, for example, for your guns, I don't know if it'll have the same setup, but in this, if you are using the same asset pack, you'd see that there's a bullet casing and a head. So we want the casing to fall off, obviously, when you fall, right? So I think by default, it came with a rigid body as well, and should make sure that it has used gravity, or else the bullet casing will sort of float in front of you. And in this asset pack, if used gravity is not turned off, it's just going to be standing in front of it, which will look very weird, right? So you want it to fall off to the ground as soon as the bullet head moves forward. You want the bullet head to basically just move ahead at speed and collide with the enemy. So in this case, I also want to have a rigid body in the bullet head. Also want to make sure that it has a capsule collider or some sort of collider. So there is a little collider that came with it, which is good. I also want to make sure that in the rigid body, we make this not the rigid body, in the capsule collider, we want to make this a trigger, because then it can just trigger with the enemy's body, and then basically the enemy can take a hit, right? So just turn that on, and then that's about it. For testing purposes, I increased the size of this prefab to 10 so that we can see it properly. But just make sure to bring it back down to like 111, or else it'll be a massive bullet heading to the enemy's direction. So what we want to do next is, guys, after you have that set up, let's go to the script. I want to show you a couple of things that I did here as a change. So the first thing is, guys, in the enemy, we're going to deal some damage to the enemy, right? So I mentioned earlier that the script now has two new methods here, right? So we have a take damage and destroy enemy. Let's have a look at the take damage first, right? In the take damage, guys, we're dealing some sort of damage here. And then if the enemy is not dead, we're going to react to that. So, sorry, wrong name here. It should be is hit, right? That's the parameter that we set up in the trigger of the animator, is hit. And then we're going to reduce that damage from the health. And if health is less than or equal to 0, we're going to destroy the enemy. All right. So destruction is completely based on your preference. So in some games, you basically show the enemy dying, and then after a couple of seconds, you kind of get rid of the body. So just to clean up the environment, but you can leave it there as well. But for memory purpose, if you're building a large game with a lot of 3D stuff going on in that environment, you kind of want to get rid of the body eventually as well, just to clean up the area. So for now, I've added that code here, but I've commented that out. So if you want, you can uncomment it. What I'm doing here is I just flag this as is dead. So we have a boolean up there that says is dead. We just make that true. If you are destroying the enemy, which means enemy's health is at 0 or less than 0. And then we simply, I'm going to get rid of this one. It's not necessary. We can say animator.setBool is dead equals true. Now, we haven't set that up in the animator yet. We're going to do that. And then we simply turn off the collisions. We also turn off the agent. And the reason is, after the body falls to the ground, you kind of don't want to collide with it when you're walking, right? You kind of want to walk over it, just to make navigation easy for the player. So I turn off the collider, and the next thing is we got to turn off the agent as well. So agent is the nav mesh agent that moves the enemy around. So we kind of don't want to do that anymore. The enemy's dead. So we turn off the agent as well. All right. That being said, that's about it there. So let's have a look at the onTrigger enter function of the enemy. So I've added this function here simply to check if the enemy collides with the player bullet trigger, right? Just make sure it's an onTrigger enter, because our bullet has a collider of type trigger, right? So just want to make sure that we check if it's the same bullet that we collide with, right? And then we're looking for a tag called player bullet. All right, we're going to do that in a bit. And then if you collide with the player bullet, you can deal damage of value 10, right? That's it for the code, guys. And that should basically deal damage to the enemy. And then if it's below its health, it's going to die, all right? That's going to already happen. So let's have a look at our Unity here. I want you guys to set up a new tag called player bullet. All right, I've already gone ahead and set that up here. So if you haven't, just go to add tag, create a new tag called player bullet. All right, so I'm skipping some of these steps because I don't want to show them all over again how to do that and stuff like that, just to lengthen this video. I don't want to do that. So I want to skip some of the things that I've already done in the previous lesson. So I'm just going to mention that you got to do it. So feel free to rewatch those videos if you've forgotten how to do it. But this is quite straightforward. Just got to hit the plus mark, add a new player tag there, player bullet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to this bullet prefab, right? So this is the prefab that we got from the gun pack. So if you want to find it, just go over to this folder here. Just go over to this bullet here. And then inside of this, guys, we want to make sure that, so this doesn't have to be player bullet, but you can keep it as player bullet as well. But the most important thing is the head. The head is what gets that velocity to move forward. The player basically shoots out the head from the gun and not the casing and not the bullet parent either, right? So make sure that you select your head and tag this as your player bullet, because this is the thing that goes forward, all right? And make sure it is a trigger and make sure it has a rigid body, right? That's about it, guys. So hit save here, go back. And what we want to do now is, I think that's it. I just want to show you one more thing though. In the shooting system, we made another change here. So instead of having this 300 down here, which is what we had earlier, right? We had it over here. We had the 300 over here hard-coded. I want to change the velocity in Unity, right? So I put that as a public float variable and replaced it with this name. So all of these codes, these new scripts are available down there if you want to just copy and paste it in your code. That's it, guys. So what I've done to test it out is just click on player. I'll change the bullet velocity to 20. Very slow. Just want to see if it actually goes forward and how it looks like, right? So let's test it out. If I actually now shoot, you can see that bullet going forward. Can you see that? That's the bullet head moving forward. And if you actually look down there, you can see the case is now falling after you shoot. Okay, oops. That's actually because I collided with those. So that's something that we can separately handle as well. But that's fine. I've run out of bullets, so I'm going to go pick up some bullets and test it out again. There we go. And then if I shoot, you can see the case falling down. Awesome. So let's go test out what happens to the enemy when we shoot the enemy. Enemy is now pretty active. So hopefully now when we shoot the enemy should react to it. So let's see. Did the enemy get shot at all? I'm getting shot, that's for sure. All right, let's have a look at the enemy setup here. Go, so it definitely should go there. All right, definitely should go to hit reaction. We'll see what happens. So what we want to do, guys, is I'm gonna pick up some ammo here just to test this thing out. All right, then I'm gonna head back. I could test it out properly back then. See. All right, now I just want to go to scene view. Just want to get a closer look at the enemy, and I also want to have the enemy selected so we see the health here, so I can see health going down. Let's shoot. I missed it again. Did it? Ah. Right, so it's going through the enemy. There we go. I'm glad that we are running into these issues while we are doing it so that we can actually fix it, because you're going to face the same issues. What's the reason for the bullet going through the enemy? If you take a wild guess, while looking at the inspector, you can see the issue. We don't have a collider for the enemy. That is a problem. So select the enemy, go to add component. We're going to add a capsule collider. All right, just select that, capsule collider. And we also want to make sure that this covers his entire body. So click on Edit Collider over here, which is going to give you this little mode here where you can drag this out to stretch out his entire body. This looks good. I also want to make it a bit skinnier, or else like it's easy for the player to hit the enemy. This looks good. And if I run this now, there you go. It has a collider. Awesome. Now let's have a look at what happens. I'm going to have a look at this health here. Just pay attention here. And then let's go shoot the enemy. I'm gonna pick up some ammo. I need some ammo to shoot this guy. And yeah, all right. Start shooting. There we go. He got hit. There we go. You can see that happening as well. Like he gets hit like that. So let me just zoom into it as well so you guys can see properly. I'm gonna shoot this guy now. Missed it. There we go. He got shot. All right. It's kind of delayed, right? So we can easily fix that. I think you guys know how to fix that easily. Simply have to click on this transition over here, right? And then go to settings and make sure this is set to 0.1. So very fast reactions there. All right, that's definitely going to do that. And that should do it, guys. So even if you get now immediately hit by hit reaction, it should be quite fast, right? So that's about it, guys. That's how you deal damage. But now we got one more thing to do, which is basically death animation for this guy. So we already have a death system. We're just not animating right now. And we simply have to set up that as well. Right. Cool. Let's do this. So it's aggressive combat, by the way. He's just shooting nonstop. Let's go to animator. Let's go to the animations folder. I'm just going to speed through this. You guys know how to do this already. So one thing I want to do is just drag in the death animation forward. Death forward. This is the one. All right. So you can go to this state from any of these states, right? It could be running, in the middle of the running, he could die. While middle of the shooting, he could die. Middle of the reaction, he could die. So I'm going to drag all of these in. And what did I call this again? Is it, if I go to enemy AI, he's dead. So I'm going to copy this name, go over here, Boolean, and I'm going to say he's dead, right? And yeah, that's it. So is that a Boolean? That's a Boolean, right? Yeah, that's a Boolean. All right. So just go to this transition, is dead, true, has exit time. Same thing here. Turn off has exit time. He's dead, true. Same thing here. Has exit time is turned off. He's dead, is true. All right, there we go. Now he should die, and then hopefully that should just, the guy should lay on the floor. That's it. All right, let's do this. So let's go kill this guy. So let's go here. Shoot, 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 shoot. Come on, guy. Die, 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 die. And we're gonna add some sound effects next as well, guys, in the sound effects chapter. Is it? Ah, there you go. There we go. He died. And he's on the flow. And see how we can now just not collide with the guy. We can just walk through him, walk over him. That's usually the behavior in most games as well. But unless you want to have ragdoll effects where you want to roll the body and things like that, well, you can do that as well. That's another chapter, guys. I wouldn't include it here. But basically, we've got now a health system and then shooting the enemy and all that. So you might notice it's minus 40 here. That's because I'm allowing the player to go to minus, but obviously we got to have a game over screen, which is something we're going to add later when we work on the menu and the HUD system. So for now, we're good to go. And yeah, that's basically the end of the enemy AI setup. So feel free to experiment and then add more functionality. We're going to add sounds to this next, which is going to be pretty awesome as well. But we're also going to work on the environments, and we're going to bring this scene to life. So these are the things that are coming up in the next few lessons. Feel free to rewatch this, guys. All the scripts are down below. All the assets are down below. See you guys in the next one.